Hey everyone, it's Christian B. Burnaby, Vancouver-based real estate agent. Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire Real Estate, where today I want to talk to you about the Trump tariffs and the impact they could have on the Canadian housing situation, but also what that means for you if you're thinking about doing a renovation, let's say to your bathroom and retiling it, or you're thinking of buying a whole set of new appliances and how that cost could jump. But before we get there, I also want to talk a little bit about some of the housing issues around tariffs, things like softwood lumber and steel being tariffed, and how that can impact us here and our economy here. And most importantly, I want to offer some solutions, and this is by the different levels of the government, with the stroke of a pen, could do to make your home purchase a lot cheaper, literally by more than $50,000. I'll give you we'll talk on that in a moment. But first, what I want to do is start with tariffs. You know, tariffs. All of a sudden is the news. I feel like I've stepped in a time machine and gone back to 1925 when tariffs were a common thing and we did not have free trade agreements. Now we have free trade agreements. So what gives? Why? Where are these coming from? And I don't know about you, but I ask why a lot, and I'm reading a lot, and I'm trying to piece the puzzle together here to understand why is the President of the United States so obsessed with putting tariffs on us here in Canada. And the best that I can understand is the following five reasons. Number one is that Trump promised to cut taxes for Americans during the last election campaign. He's got a problem. The U.S. debt is too high. U.S. spending is too high, and he's already cut taxes in his first administration. So where do you find the money to offset the cut in taxes? You guessed it. It's tariffs. And tariffs are taxes, just in another form. So by imposing tariffs on goods coming in from Canada, from Mexico, or from wherever, he can then raise revenue and lower American taxes. The second reason is I believe it encourages American companies based in Mexico and in Canada to relocate their manufacturing back into the United States. For example, in Ontario, automotive sector is very big. Ford and GM have tens of thousands of employees in their plants there. And I'm sure Trump would like nothing more for Ford and GM to relocate their operations back to Michigan, Ohio, or wherever. Easier said than done, obviously, but I imagine that would be the end goal. Third, for international companies looking to set up operations, manufacturing in North America, who might be looking at Canada because of our cheap Canadian dollar, all of a sudden, with high Canadian taxes relative to the U.S. and high tariffs on Canadian goods now, it makes us an unappealing destination for companies to come and do business. And, you know, most companies, it becomes a no-brainer. They say, well, might as well just go to the U.S., right? Fourth, this punishes us here in Canada because our economy is generally weaker and more dependent on and reliant on the United States. For example, we export 97% of our Tarzan's oil from northern Alberta to America. Well, and they teach you this on the second day of Harvard Business School, but Porter's 5 forces. One of those forces is called customer power. If one of your customers buys 97% of all your goods, you don't have any power. They do. And boy, are they ever exercising it on us right now. And what that does is it puts us in a weakened position if and when we go back to the negotiating table with Trump to renegotiate the trade agreement that he just negotiated with us 6 years ago in 2018, 2019. So, and it puts them it gives them the leverage, puts them in a stronger position. And I think the fifth reason here, one which I think scares Canadians the most, is the talk of becoming the 51st state. Hell no. And I think it sounds like a joke, but when someone says something 25 times with increasing intensity, I don't know. I start to believe them. And I think we got to take that very, very seriously, which I do believe our public officials are doing. Okay, so that is my take on why we are seeing these tariffs, the threat of these tariffs. Okay, a few things as we jump into this. I pulled an article from the Canadian Home Builders Association, and they talked about what we import and export with regards to home building with the United States. Here's what we import and could be tariffed in the first sort of levy of tariffs. Appliances, aluminum and steel. Well, appliances. I mean, I just had a fridge guy come in here and look at my fridge. It's starting to make some funny noises. And he told me right off the bat, the parts are $800 plus labor. Well, you guessed it. I'm looking for a new fridge. I can find one on Costco there for about $1,600. You can easily go over $2,000. You add a 25% tariffs on fridges coming in from the U.S., you're adding an extra $500 on one appliance. Now, if you're fitting out new appliances for your entire home, it can easily cost you $7,000 to $10,000. $10,000, now you're paying an extra $2,500 just in tariffs on these goods. Other goods that we import from the United States, $3.5 billion in glass and glass products. I've mentioned before in a video that it can cost up to $2 million to put windows on a high-rise tower. Imagine the builder now having to pay extra $500,000. Of course, that cost will get passed on to you as the end consumer. We import $3.1 billion in appliances from the United States. We import $2.2 billion in hardware. I guess they're talking about things like anything from window hardware to door handles to the stuff you would put into your bathrooms to hang your towels and so on. We import $1 billion in ceramic tiles and products. So if you're looking to tile that bathroom floor, the bathroom wall, and that was going to cost you, $10,000, all of a sudden that's gone up again by $2,500. We're not even talking about labor. Maybe we're just talking about tiling the bathroom and the kitchen, for example. So you can start to see how these costs add up. A little bit of talk about softwood lumber. Well, yeah, sure, we exported a lot of that to the United States raw, where they refine it and ship it back to us. Well, are we going to put tariffs on that? I mean, it'd be like kind of punching ourselves in the face. It would add 25% to the cost of construction for builders of townhouses, duplexes, and homes. Now, builders generally work with about a 20%, 25% margin. That eats away almost all of their margin. Are we going to see building if we have 25% tariffs imposed on us and on goods coming into Canada? The Canadian dollar could be devalued. I mean, in a protracted trade war, there's no question the Canadian dollar is going to get affected and we're going to come out on the losing end. And if that's the case, of course, it means if we're importing things like engineered hardwood or laminate, let's say from places like Germany or even China, that's going to get more expensive. All of a sudden, that flooring you were going to install that was going to cost you $10,000, it's gone up again by another $2,500. So a lot of charges, a lot of things here that are going to go up in price if this comes to fruition. Now, a few things governments can do to help you and me. And that is if for buying a new home, they could get rid of the GST. If you were buying a $1 million townhouse, with the stroke of the pen, they can save you $50,000 by getting rid of the 5% GST, right? Development charges at the municipal level have skyrocketed. I know here in Burnaby, the per unit charge, imagine a developer building a 250-story high-rise. Per unit, the developer is paying about $24,000 to the city of Burnaby. In Vancouver, it's closer to $30,000. In Langley, it's closer to $40,000. So that cost gets passed on to you, the end user. So folks, there are things that the government can do that simply requires the stroke of a pen to make it a little cheaper on you. So write your local official. Now, what are some other things considerations here in the midst of this tariff discussion? Well, one thing we could do is allow foreign buyers to come back into the pre-sale market. And there's a good article about this on stories.com where they talk to a lot of the presidents of the larger developers in BC. And one of them pointed out that in Australia, this is exactly what they do. They allow foreign buyers to buy pre-sales, right? Which means that 250-story tower will get built 5 years from now. And you add another, let's say 125 units to the rental pool, and the other 125 are end users. They move in for the use for themselves. So the key point here is it also means our construction industry keeps on churning, in which here in BC, we've got tens of thousands of jobs. So that's one consideration. Right now, no foreign buyers are allowed in Canada. That we could do away with. Again, on pre-sales, not on existing homes. A few other things we could do is start to diversify our economy. As this article mentions, we import about 40 to 60% of all home building supplies from the United States. And that's, like, guys, that's everything from windows to insulation. And some of the things, the examples they have is there's a company in Surrey, it's the only example they gave, called Starline Windows, which produces most of the windows, a lot of the windows that could go into a high-rise, but there's no other examples given. So presumably, we don't have a lot of large-scale manufacturers of windows here in the Lower Mainland or in BC. They talk about another example of fiber cement siding. So this goes on to newly built half duplexes, detached homes, townhouses. It's a composite material made from cement and obviously fiber, plastic, so on. And it's long lasting, lasts at least a half a century, maybe up to 70 years, called Hardy Plank. And they give an example of a Quebec-based company that has operations in Kelowna, but that's all. They just mentioned the facility there that produces it, and that they wouldn't be able to handle all the orders if everybody started to go through this one facility in Kelowna. So that there's some challenging issues that face us here. We've touched on softwood lumber. You know, some people think that, and I've been reading this online, that, well, we've got a lot of softwood lumber. That'll mean there's an excess of supply, and it'll mean it's easy for builders here. First off, I would say be careful about that, because softwood lumber, the mills here, if they can't make money, they may close down. And then we're going to have a lot less supply on the market pretty fast. So that I don't think that's the right answer either. What I'm getting at is tariffs are going to be bad for us. So our officials have to fight back really hard against these things. And we have to just appreciate how difficult it could make it be for us here. But we also can understand that if it does come into play, there are things that the local government and the federal government can do. They make homes a lot cheaper for us as well and increase affordability. Okay, thank you for watching, and see you next time.